52 days before. After everyone left, after the Colonel's mom showed up in a beat-up hatchback and he threw his giant double bag into the back seat, and after he said, "I'm not much for saying but goodbye. I'll see you in a week. Don't do anything I wouldn't do." And after a green limousine arrived for Laura, whose father was the only doctor in some small town in southern Alabama, and after I joined Alaska on a harrowing "we don't need no stinking brakes" drive to the airport to drop off Takumi, and after the campus settled into an eerie quiet with no doors slamming and no music playing and no one laughing and no one screaming, after all that, we made our way down to the soccer field, and she took me to the edge of the field where the woods sat. The same steps I'd walked on my way to being thrown into the lake. Beneath the full moon she cast a shadow. You could see the curve from her waist to her hips in the shadow. And after a while she stopped and said, "Dig." And I said, "Dig?" And she said, "Dig." And we went on like that for a bit, and then I got on my knees and dug through the soft black dirt at the edge of the woods, and before I got very far, my fingers scratched glass. And I dug around the glass until I pulled out a bottle of pink wine. Strawberry Hill it was called. I suppose because if it had not tasted like vinegar with a dash of maple syrup, it might have tasted like strawberries. "I have a fake ID," she said, "but it sucks. So every time I go to the liquor store, I try to buy 10 bottles of this and some vodka for the Colonel. And so when it finally works, I'm covered for a semester. And then I give the Colonel his vodka and he puts it wherever he puts it, and I take mine and bury it." "Because you're a pirate," I said. "Aye, matey, precisely. Although wine consumption has risen a bit this semester, so we'll need to take a trip tomorrow. This is the last bottle." She unscrewed the cap. No corks here. Sipped and handed it to me. "Don't worry about the eagle tonight," she said. "He's just happy most everyone's gone. He's probably masturbating for the first time this month." I worried about it for a moment as I held the bottle by the neck, but I wanted to trust her, and so I did. I took a minor sip, and as soon as I swallowed, I felt my body rejecting the stinging syrup of it. It washed back up to my esophagus, but I swallowed hard, and yes, there, I did it. I was drinking on campus. So we lay in the tall grass between the soccer field and the woods, passing the bottle back and forth, and tilting our heads up to sip the wince-inducing wine. As promised in the list, she brought me a Kurt Vonnegut book, Cat's Cradle, and she read aloud to me, her soft voice mingling with the frogs croaking and the grasshoppers landing softly around us. I did not hear her words so much as the cadence of her voice. She'd obviously read the book many times before, and she read so flawlessly and confidently, and I could hear her smile in the reading of it. The sound of that smile makes me think that maybe I would like novels better if Alaska Young read them to me. After a while she put down the book. I felt warm but not drunk with the bottle resting between us, my chest touching the bottle and her chest touching the bottle, but not us touching each other. And then she placed her hand on my leg. Her hand just above my knee, the palm flat and soft against my jeans, and her index finger making slowly circles that crept toward the inside of my thigh. And with one layer between us. God, I wanted her. And laying there amid the tall, still grass, and beneath the star-drunk sky, listening to just this side of an inaudible sound of her rhythmic breathing, and the noisy silence of the bullfrogs, the grasshoppers, distant cars rushing endlessly on I-65. I thought it might be a fine time to say the three little words. And I steeled myself to say them as I stared up at that starriest night, convinced myself that she felt it too, that her hand was alive and vivid, against my leg was more than playful. And fuck Laura, and fuck Jake, because I do, Alaska Young. I love you. And what else matters but that? And my lips parted to speak, and before I could even breathe out the words, she said, "It's not life or death, the labyrinth." Okay, so what is it? "Suffering," she said. "Doing wrong, and having wrong things happen to you. That's the problem." Bolivar was talking about the pain, not about the living or dying. How do you get out of the labyrinth of suffering? "What's wrong?" I asked. I felt the absence of her hand on me. "Nothing's wrong. But there's always suffering, Pudge. Homework, or malaria, or having a boyfriend who lives far away when there's a good-looking boy next to you. Suffering is universal. It's the one thing the Buddhists, Christians, and Muslims are all worried about." I turned to her. "Oh, so maybe Dr. Highsclass isn't total bullshit." And both of us lying on our sides, she smiled. Her nose was almost touching. My unblinking eyes on her, her face blushing from the wine. And I opened my mouth again, but this time not to speak. Then she reached up and put a finger to my lips and said, "Shh, shh. don't ruin it.